Well, good morning. Hey, Sue. I bet you were wondering, where was Mac?
We're not recording yet, are we?
We are live.
Great. In that case, hello, good evening, and welcome.
Yes, we are. I came on a little bit earlier, and Joel got all our tech side of things sorted. So good afternoon and good morning. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another series with Sue Plumtree, who has been giving us such incredible value over the last, what's it been, a month and a half now, Sue?
I think so, yeah.
And, sharing in this mini-series where she's been able to give a lot of personal as well as general information that can really help us grow as individuals and be able to become stronger in who we are, and making sure that we look after ourselves as well as others, which is quite a big thing. So how's your week been going, Sue?
A bit of a roller coaster, really exciting. I've got 222 people signed up for my event on Meetup.
Oh, wow.
Wow is another way of putting it.
I do hope that people that have signed up realize the value that they will be getting from you and make sure they turn up.
Yeah,
because that's one of the other big challenges is when you put on an event, is how many people turn up. And I really do urge people, if you've signed up to Sue's event or haven't yet, make sure that you do, so that you can gain that value.
Yeah, I'm amazed how many people are interested. What is it called? How to increase your chances of great relationships. Wednesday, the 3rd of August at 6 p.m. BST.
And that's London time. Yep.
Yes.
Awesome stuff. Well, hey, make sure that you reach out to Sue and get the link to that. We'll share that in the comments after as well. We have Sue for another, half an hour, 45 minutes. And Sue has been sharing so much of her personal relationship, as well as all the things that she's been learning as she's been going along. And we've had some pretty, not necessarily personal, but items that are so important that we forget to look after when it comes to our own personal well-being. So Sue, I'm going to ask you, before we get started with today's session, what has stood out for you so far over the last few sessions?
Can I ask you first, can people ask me questions as we talk?
Absolutely.
I think that would be absolutely awful. Oh.
I love that Freudian slip. Awful. Don't leave any questions or comments for Sue. No.
I think I meant awesome.
Well, it shows you how easily it is that we could put the wrong information out there. So, hey, we're all human. Love it, Sue. So if you've got comments or questions for Sue and you've watched some of the episodes to date, do us a favor, drop some questions in there for Sue. Anything relationship orientated, whether that's business relationship, personal relationships, is the guru when it comes to. Do us a favor, drop those comments in there, and drop those questions in there as we go along as well. So, Sue, back to you. Tell us what's kind of stood out for you over the last few episodes since you've become this regular live person on LinkedIn.
There is such need for this information. This is why I think I broke all the rules when I mentioned Meetup first, instead of waiting for you to offer me the opportunity. Because every day I spend time individually with everything, and they all ask the same question. How to create great relationships, how to know who is trustworthy, how can I answer what I need without people thinking that I'm being selfish. And then after the first 100, the questions began to repeat themselves again and again. People are hungry to know how to handle relationships that last. So that's why
as I've learned from you, Sue, that's it's an interesting challenge along the way, because people go through different things through and different experiences during relationships, and they're different. Everybody's relationships are impacted in different ways, and a lot of the way we respond to people comes based on how our makeup has brought us, and all the events have brought us to that point.
Yes.
So is there really a magic formula that works for everybody, seeing that everybody has had a different experience?
I think there is. And the answer is, it's pretty much what I've been saying every single interview. And it is, you've get to know yourself, to love yourself, to like yourself, to respect yourself. It's an old-fashioned word, but I keep repeating it because it's fundamental to sound strong, loving relationships, believe it or not, because it is the opposite of what most people believe. So the answer, that is the answer fundamentally. And it is not about, as we mentioned last time, because it was a great question you asked me, being full of yourself. That is absolutely not. But it is to genuinely like yourself, to have gone through hell and high water, be where you are today. You have learned that you have some important inner resources, and that you are worth loving, and that you deserve to be treated with consideration. All of what we covered at the last meeting is valid for, this is the answer to the universe and great relationships.
I love the way you just put it in simplicity, in such simple terms. And then there's me that just, sometimes I just kind of ramble on to try and get to my point, and you just straight there, done. So folks, today you are watching, and our subject and our topic is how to make sure your needs are met. Now, this is something that, even personally, I have to admit that it's not something that, I put very high on my own priority list for a very long time, because it was always trying to please everyone else around me.
Yes.
And, I know personally how that's impacted me and impacted my health and everything else, because you put yourself last. So if that resonates with you out there, and, you feel that you're always serving everybody else and helping everybody else, then today's discussion is for you. Because you are just as important as everybody else out there, and your needs need to be met too. So Sue, where do we get started with the subject of making sure that our own needs are met?
Well, most of what I'm learning is like, I feel like I'm my own guinea pig, meaning I never dared to ask for what I needed and wanted. I learned it from my mom. She always put everybody else ahead of her own needs, and told me explicitly that if I wanted one of my needs met, it would be selfish. And I think I'm not unique in that way at all. Women especially, I believe, are brainwashed in believing that if they want something for themselves, it's selfish. But the truth is that if we don't ask for what we need, then we suffer. And when we suffer, we eventually become exhausted, but also resentful, because we don't get anything back. But asking for what we need or want is not easy at all, because not only have we been brainwashed, but the other thing is that we wonder that we can't ask, because what if they say no? What if they think I'm selfish? What if they think that, I don't know, I'm not capable enough to handle it? But the other thing is that if we don't ask for what we need, then we end up feeling small and undeserving. And that is one of the main reasons why people don't ask. If they then go ahead and try, but don't believe they deserve it, then they will ask in a rather tentative way, would you mind? But I would understand if you, but it would be nice if you would. And then they're surprised and resentful and disappointed that they don't get what they want. But the truth is, if you don't believe you deserve it, number one, know exactly what you need or want, which most people don't because they've never really thought about it. Ask for it in a clear way so that the other person knows exactly what it is you want, rather than thinking, what did she say? What did she want? So it's not because they don't want to give it to you, but because they didn't understand what it is that you wanted. So there is a lot of negative inner critic, my favorite word, the gremlin, that is stopping us from asking for what we need and want. Being a people pleaser also gets in the way of doing that. But you see, we often don't know what we really need. We just go with the flow, or it would be nice if right now. But does it really matter? Do you really want it? So you might really want to be supported. You might really need to be heard and understood. You might need to feel seen and taken seriously. So asking for those things is almost impossible for many of us, certainly for me, for a very long time. But there are other things. Could you please help me with a meal? I'm really tired today. I could use your help. Those kind of things.
So,
But yeah,
Sue, by the sounds of it, clarity, well, it kind of seems obvious, but clarity is so important when it comes to what your needs are.
yes, absolutely.
And I kind of chuckled to myself because I think, as you were using some of those lines about, could you maybe, or you kind of beat around the bush, as it were, to rather than just come out and ask for something specific.
Yes.
And that causes so much more frustration, because then you end up, you like the saying says, you get what you ask for. And because you haven't asked for exactly what you want, and you've gone around, beaten around the bush, as it were, you end up getting everything but what you want.
Exactly. So that is one thing. But once you feel good about yourself, you will appreciate that you're not going to get everything you ever ask for.
Yeah.
But you'll get more than if you didn't. But the other thing is that if they say no, you're not going to die.
Yeah, it's not fatal.
This is the thing: win some, lose some. Unless
Absolutely.
it's really seriously important,
Absolutely.
then it's a different territory.
We're speaking here, get people who are watching, as in you kind of dip in and out of the conversation. Let us know where you are watching from and who you are. If you have any questions, great, but just let us know who's in the audience. So as an example, we've got Shehzadi Yunus from Pakistan, who has said hi.
How amazing is that?
We've got Niklaus Jackson, who has said hi. It looks like he's out in the forest, which is pretty cool. So yeah, comment into the comments box watching from, and then any comments. If you agree with something or disagree with something, it is okay to disagree with things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Viewpoint. So please do drop those into the comments as well. So Sue, I know it seems kind of odd. Why is it that in and I was watching a video yesterday on my daughter was showing me some of these TikTok videos, and obviously for me I'm still trying to catch up with this whole world of the younger generation with TikTok. And when it comes to relationships, it's why is it that before it's a formalized thing? So as an example, when somebody's dating or they're engaged, it seems that people go beyond the call of duty to try and, as it were, court the other person, get their attention. It's the same in business, when we're trying to get a new client or we're trying to, get a new business partner. We do everything to make sure those needs are met and that we are listening. But then the moment almost like the deal is done, so as in, you're now married, or you're now dating, or you're now a business partner, that seems to then take a back seat somewhere along the line. It just kind of fades.
Yes.
And people forget about the things that brought you together in the first place, and the vision, and the, whether it be love or any of the other things that come along with it. Why does that fade? Why doesn't that stay a priority?
I think it can be summed up in the saying, familiarity breeds contempt. And we stop noticing the things that we loved and attracted us in the first place, and begin to notice all the things that irritate us instead. So we take for granted the good and focus on the bad. And then, of course, the more you do it, the more you keep focusing on it, and it creates distance. And when there's this distance, it's difficult unless you go, wait a minute, I don't like this. One of you might get to that point. But you then, if you are unhappy, are the one who has to take the initiative. So that's when you start thinking, what is missing? What exactly do I need? What do I need to feel happier? How can I bring us closer together? Because the interesting thing that if we're waiting for the other person to do it, you can wait for a very long time. It's not going to happen. So it's up to you, basically. But what exactly do you want to change? You can't change everything. Pick one thing, perhaps something small.
Pick your battles, as they say.
It's always baby steps. It will give you confidence, but you don't even have to have a conversation. You start doing something for your partner that you seem to remember that they enjoy. Bring them a cup of coffee, and do some small things. I prepared your favorite meal today. I know the two of us had a very long day at the office, and we both probably had our share of frustrations, but I thought I'll make the effort because I remember that you liked it. And very gradually, the environment will thaw. And then, at first they'll think it's a fluke because it's been such a long time. So they're not going to respond immediately. So once you engage in that process, if you're really committed to bring you closer together, it will take time. It will take time. Just like it took a long time to get you to this point.
So, I'm a very visual kind of person, and I'm thinking of another example where, it's interesting when it comes to relationships. Often our point of view is it's the problem lies with the other person. Yes. And through working with you and working on both personal and business relationships, and learning how to just think about things a little bit differently. It has been, I've become so much more aware around me of how people make their own lives more difficult or miserable because they actually program their surroundings and those people that are in their environment. And again, and I love learning from my children. Yesterday, my daughter was, introduced me to this series that she was watching, and she said, and the husband says to the wife, they've got their daughter over with a new boyfriend, and his wife says, okay, I'm going to make your favorite meal. I'm going to make meatloaf. And he goes, please don't make meatloaf. And she was like, what do you mean? You love my meatloaf. I've been making it for you for 37 years. And he goes, I've never liked your meatloaf. It's horrible. It's disgusting. He says, you can't do that to the poor boyfriend. And she's like, well, why didn't you tell me like 37 years ago? And he went, well, I kind of did it because I liked you at the time and I didn't want to hurt your feelings. And then for 37 years after, every Friday night he was having meatloaf. And every Saturday he would be sitting there thinking, oh man, I don't like meatloaf. But he had done that to himself because he had gone and said, okay, this is lovely, this is nice. And you could have done it in a different way, saying maybe not my favorite meal, but so
Let's try
literally,
something else, actually.
yeah, exactly. And but
Yeah.
he had put himself through misery for 37 years because he had programmed his wife to think that this was his favorite meal. So she was showing ultimate love and time and effort putting into this meal that she's trying to
Yeah.
and in the meantime, the husband's sitting there thinking, well, she might as well stab me because I really
I
and
know.
this is where the communications can be
I
so
would
different.
laugh if it wasn't so tragic.
Yeah, but it happens in business, it happens in personal relationships, in friendships. So the need to please, I think, is just as dangerous
Oh,
for
yeah.
relationships.
Because, I mean, you assume that, okay, I don't know if I mentioned that. I was married for the first time when I was quite young, very long marriage. And I never felt loved in that relationship. I felt really lonely, very isolated. Long story. Years after I finally left my marriage, I learned that my husband did love me, but not in the way I needed to be loved. And then I imagined that the same applied to him, that my way of loving him, he didn't get it because it wasn't what made him feel loved. So we both made assumptions, and the result was a broken down marriage with two unhappy people. And it's such a
And
shame.
it really is, because obviously one of the biggest assets we have in life is time, and it's something that's irreplaceable and we don't get it back. And yet it's so easy to waste time, as it were, on things that, if you could imagine, had you made that decision or had that discussion a month ago, that's a month you would have got back, or a year ago, that's a year that you would have got back. So many of us are stuck in different situations because we're trying to please. And in business, I see that often as well, with individuals who you get into business because you think, oh, so and so had a great idea right now, it was the best fit for me because of my circumstances, and then all of a sudden you get to a stage where you kind of go, okay, well, this is their thing, not my thing, but I'll just go along because I don't want to hurt their feelings. In the meantime, you're not serving that person in the best way either, which means that person would actually do better with you communicating the honesty, and both of you would be able to then flourish in whatever direction you want to go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it comes down to communication again, eh?
Yeah, it's this thing about I didn't want to hurt your feelings. It's an excuse for cowardice.
Ooh, ouch.
Because telling somebody the truth, you don't have to say, that is a terrible idea. You don't have to put it like that. I said, why don't we discuss it? There could be a different way of doing this. Let's think it through together. We don't have to do it like that.
One of my mentors a few years ago, and I just love this, it's called Fresh Eyes. And
yes.
he would say, every now and then, like, even if you thought things were perfect, it's always good getting some fresh eyes on the perspective. And whether that's getting an outside party involved, if it's a business discussion as an example, or even if you're in a marriage and you want to speak to somebody like yourself, Sue, then getting those fresh eyes just to make sure that you're not selling yourself short, and you're not you're not in a position where you could be achieving all the things of your dreams, but you are the blockade or the blockage to that.
Yes, that's a perfect example. I mean, one of the good things about an outsider, a coach, a counselor, a therapist, is that but not family at whatever the cost, not close friends or family, because they have a vested interest in you not changing.
Oh, that's such a great point. And I think this is where, whether that's in business or in personal life,
Oh, yes.
that is such an important point to bring in, because if the other party has a vested interest, then there's not going to be a fair level of communication.
I mean, it's not deliberate. They want you to be happy,
Yeah.
but they don't want you to change at the same time. So it's difficult for them. That's why an outsider is always better, because they come in with no agenda, no history. They
Yeah.
don't want anything from you.
And this is, I find this interesting as well, because as an example, if, I went to my business partner and I had a relationship with somebody, as an example, I know quite a few people who do conflict resolution, as an example, in business.
Yeah.
But and they're amazing at what they do. But if I came to say a business partner and said, hey, I think we need to discuss, and maybe we should get somebody who does conflict resolution in, and I know somebody who I can pull in, that automatically, as an example, because it's somebody has a vested interest in the sense that I know them, may feel to that person that person is not going to be what's the word, independent with their thinking. They already know you, so they may take your side. So it's quite interesting when wanting to talk to professionals. Like, what would you suggest is the best way to go about it?
Well, asking the individual, would you like help with this? Would you like me to recommend somebody who might help? Rather than, how can I put it? Okay, let me give you another example. I find examples quite handy. It happened a while back where a boyfriend contacted me to buy 1 hour as a gift for his girlfriend.
Ooh.
So I said, your girlfriend is really lucky to have such a loving boyfriend as yourself. Perhaps it would be an idea for her to contact me. I never heard from them again. I don't even know if the relationship survived, because it was clear he wanted her to change in some way. So that's not good.
Again, another fundamental point there is when we are trying to change somebody else, and it's
No.
yeah, and this is how many people get together because they think, oh, I could help that person, I could save that person, I could change things for, and then oh really?
When I first met Bill, first meeting ever, I judged that his hair was too long. He just touched the top of his shirt. We're talking the swinging 60s. I'd arrived from Argentina. I knew nothing about the swinging 60s, but I judged, and I thought, if I get to know him better, I'll get his hair cut.
That was an expensive haircut,
From the
Sue.
beginning, I wanted to change him.
That's an
Can you
expensive
believe
haircut.
that?
Wow. I tell you what we get ourselves into sometimes, hey?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because hindsight, it looks so simple, but when you're in it, is why do people take so long to make these decisions and be good to themselves to make sure that their needs are met?
Well, for one thing, as a people pleaser, that was an absolute no-no. The idea of being selfish horrified me. So that was the first thing. In fact, I kept giving even more, because the less I got, the more I gave, and then eventually became resentful. But by then I had created this habit, and I had trained Bill to just become passive. So it was my responsibility. I trained him. So, and but the gremlin, this inner critic, is a very potent voice
Yeah.
to stop us from changing.
And it's interesting how you put that, I learn more every time I speak to you about as you said, you trained him.
Yes.
And we train those people around us now. And I know in the previous one of the previous episodes I spoke about how I trained my employers to how to treat me, because I said it was okay to stay late one afternoon, and then I ended up staying late all the time. And
Yes.
then it became the usual. So it became expected that I stay late. And the one day I want to leave early, all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose, because I've trained them that it's okay for me to stay late, but it's not okay for me to leave early. So that raised alarm bells. And I was like, what? So straight away, it had become a toxic environment that I had created.
Yes.
As part, it wasn't solely my fault, because to a degree they took advantage of the situation, but at the same time I allowed that because I had created that environment. And this is the difficult part, I think, Sue, is the subject is about how do we make sure that our needs are met, but at the same time it's how do we train people around us and make them aware of what our actual needs are, because if they don't know, how are they supposed to be able to meet those needs?
Exactly. I tend to believe those very old movies have a lot to answer for. Things like, if you loved me, you'd know. The crystal balls full of
The
communication.
guesswork.
So that's one. And the other one, if I have to tell you, it has no value.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't come from the heart. Rubbish.
I want to start singing that song, If You Don't Know Me By Now.
God, no.
But it's so true, because there's so many of these things that we've become accustomed to that we tell ourselves that the other person should know by now.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because, with kids, they say your children are sent to test those parts that really need testing in your life. I often find myself responding to something, and then because of some of the training I've now had from you as an example, I'll ask myself, so why is the situation like it is? Is it something I have allowed, or is it something that has been explained, and therefore, like, whose fault is it actually here? And when I take a step back and I look at it from an outsider perspective, often I go, wow, so how should my child know how to do XYZ if I've never shown them how to do it properly? And
absolutely.
I'm like,
excellent.
And because I take it for granted, and a lot of us do with things in life, where we just take it for granted. Well, if I know, surely you should know. It's obvious. And what's obvious to one is definitely not obvious to the other.
Yes. The answer is, well, you should know. Well, why would I? Is the answer. When you never said. But that is not a very productive conversation, really.
Talk to us about how do we stage where we can more easily approach the subject of what our needs are. How do we even know what our needs are? Because most of us have never even looked at what our own needs are.
Well, exactly. And that is the first step, to find out what you really, really need, rather than what would be nice right now. So that would be the first thing I would inviting anyone listening or watching to actually take some time to think, what do I really need? What are my values? Do I need physical tenderness? Do I need my partner to keep promises. If they say they're going to do something, I want to know that he's going to do it. So actions speak louder than words. Do I need flowers and gifts and love words? So, but it's more than that. Do I need to know that he is going to be there for me? That if they're a workaholic, where do I fit in terms of his list of priorities? I want to be more top. But your partner might say, yes, but I'm doing this for both of us. And you might say, well, I'd rather spend more time with you. I don't need all these things, for example. So they may have an assumption that some of the things they do is for you, but you don't value them. But you never discussed it. A little bit like those meatballs.
Yeah, exactly. And this is interesting because, if we look at the last, say, 40 or 50 years worth of changes that have happened in our world, and just the last 2 years with the pandemic, it's probably a good time within everybody, whether it's in business or personal, to have a review of what your needs and your values are,
Yes.
because of the fact that so many of us have had a shift in mindset over the last 2-3 years.
Indeed.
And what was important 10 years ago or even 5 years ago is now almost could be irrelevant.
Oh, absolutely. When I first married, I love those love words, to be held tenderly and be told how wonderful I am, how lucky they are to have found me, that kind of stuff. Later, I needed more practical support. And then to know that when I am struggling with things, that they're there having my back, basically, rather than me feeling that I have to do it all by myself and look after them, which was part of me having trained them. Oh, something will turn up. Don't worry about it. Just carry on doing what you're doing. And that was devastating to know that, you know what, I'm on my own here. It's a terrible feeling. So our needs change according to circumstances.
Yeah. Sure, Sue. It's an ongoing, moving thing, but it all comes down to such simple things, and just basic communication, updating, and just knowing what we want out of things. And that's the difficult part, I think, when it comes to clarity, because a lot of the time, and I've personally experienced this in business and with various personal relationships, where it's not where you want it to be, but your clarity, because you don't know exactly what it is you want, the clarity, all you're doing is you're actually making the situation worse by telling them what you don't want, if that makes sense. So you keep going, well, I don't want this, I don't want that. It's like, well, can you just tell us what you do want?
Exactly.
And and that I looked at this as a when it was about several years ago, I was working with this company that needed to design a solution for me, and I knew exactly what I didn't want. And I knew they designed these solutions using the software, and I thought they are the guys to solve my problem. And in the end, I sat there and I'd spent so much time, wasted money on meetings after meetings, and I kept going, these guys don't have a clue what I want. And then one day I sat down and I went, and one of the owners of the company turned around with Max. So can you just do me a favor, go away, in a 10-point summary, send us exactly what you want.
Yeah.
And I went,
brilliant.
And I sat there and I went, oh dear, how did I embark on this project without making clear what my needs were right in the beginning? And because I couldn't work out what those were, I ended up calling the project off and saying, I am so sorry for wasting your time. Even though I've paid you for it, I've wasted your time because I wasn't clear what the outcome was that I wanted.
And that was an honorable thing to do, to take responsibility. This is one of the things that we rarely do, take responsibilities when things go wrong. Because every relationship is co-created. There is never one person to blame. I used to blame poor Bill for everything that was wrong until I realized years after I left my marriage how I contributed to the breakdown, to my own suffering. So taking responsibility stops you from being a victim.
Whew, it's that accountability side of things, eh?
Yep.
So yeah, there are so much, or there is so much that contributes, whether it be our own actions or the actions of the other person. And I keep thinking of that equation of every action as an equal and opposite reaction, and
Yes.
yes. What we give is what we get sometimes as well, and we've got to be conscious and open to the fact that the problem doesn't only lie on the other side. It could start with us.
No, but Mac, it starts with knowing ourselves.
Yeah.
We need to know ourselves, what is important to us, what we believe, all these things, what our needs are. If we don't know, and it's getting to like ourselves, to know that we're worthy of asking. This is where it all starts. Everything else, it starts from the inside out. We change our inside, everything changes on the outside. That is guaranteed.
Absolutely.
It starts with us.
So, I'm going to urge everybody who has been watching or watches this in the future, and shares, whatever the outcome is from today with us, or even, what I'd like to challenge everybody who's watching or watches in the future is to take some time out and go and write down what it is important to you. What are your needs? As Sue says, it's go and sit and evaluate your own values, your needs, your wants. Sue, what's the best way to go about that? What suggestions do you have for people around that?
Oh, just take time out for yourself. Don't wait until you are at breakdown stage. Do it long before then. And if you are single and looking, then do it before you commit to anyone. Get to know yourself, get to like yourself, know what you're worth, that you deserve to be loved, treated with consideration. And you don't have to walk on eggshells, and feel comfortable asking for what you need. That's where it starts. Then the how to ask is a skill set that eventually can be mastered, but it starts with you.
I would definitely recommend, reaching out and connecting with Sue, to be able to master some of those communication skills, and also, to learn more about and develop a better understanding of who you are and what makes you the unique person that you are. And each one of us have, the right to live an incredible life. But it starts with us looking after ourselves first.
Yes.
And Sue, taking the time to really cover some pretty interesting topics, and pretty sensitive topics that most people, I guess, on LinkedIn or on YouTube or even on Facebook wouldn't necessarily go into. We've covered quite a few. We've done, review your past relationships to create great new ones. We've done learn to love yourself. Or what does self-love really look like? How to recognize the right partner for you? How we've to make sure that your needs are met. We've still got a few really tough ones to cover. The next one is one I've heard you use that word. But what stops you from getting what you really want? That gremlin that you speak of.
One of my favorites.
And then we have why you need to be selfish. So, again, something that when I first read that, I thought, are we allowed to be selfish? Is it because we kind of get brought up to say that being selfish is such a bad, negative thing. But actually, as I've learned, it's a a piece of survival skill that you really do need in order to be able to get the best life for yourself as well.
Indeed.
So I'm looking forward to that one. And then the final one, how to feel good about yourself right away. Now, I know, all of us can do with a little bit of that. So Sue, tell us just as a final, you've got this event on Wednesday, the 3rd of August, you mentioned. So please tell us a little bit more about that and how can people connect and reach out to you?
Okay. You can find me on LinkedIn. All my contact details are there. The event on Meetup, which is really exciting, starts on the Wednesday, the 3rd of August, 2 hours, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. British Standard Time. And it's about how to develop strong and loving relationships, basically how to increase the chances of great relationships. That's what it's called on Meetup.
And is that face-to-face or is that a Zoom event?
It's an online event. And there is the link is on my page. So when the time comes, all you have to do is click on it.
And what's your page called again?
Sorry?
What's your page called again?
It is called, the group. Hold on a second. I have to check the name of my group. I think it is called Create Your Perfect Relationship Group. And my event is called How to Increase Your Chances of Great Relationships.
Awesome stuff.
And this is something that people hunger for.
So
it's great to see you there.
Absolutely. The link to that is on your company page.
On LinkedIn? It's not.
So if you could share that with us and then share that with me, and what I'll do is I'll put it into the comments on this event as well.
Please, Mac. Yeah, I'll do
Excellent
that.
Stuff. Marvelous. Well, listen,
everybody. Imagine today's post.
Say that again.
I posted it today. It's called "And Now for Something Entirely Different," and I wrote a post about having 220 people.
Awesome stuff.
And I put the link there.
So go to Sue's
post. Not
That's perfectly fine. So go to Sue's profile, go and check it out, go to her post today, and go and comment that you watched this and tell her that how amazing and awesome she is in that post of hers today, and go and support her. And please do sign up for that event. Without a doubt, will add massive value. Sue, thank you very much for being here. And I wish you an incredible week further. And thank you for just being the amazing Sue Plumtree.
Oh, sweetie, thank you.
Awesome stuff. Well, thank you very much. We are going to sign out now, and please go and connect with Sue and sign up for that event.
Bye.
We'll see you at the next event. Bye, everybody.
Mark, are you there? Mark.